In this lesson, we're going to look at the geolocation API for making a one-off request to get your current position. The example is in a file called getinCurrentPosition.html. This is in your project files folder. You just need to make sure that you copy it into a web server folder first before you run it. Now, when I click the button, there's a geolocation API call in JavaScript, and the browser intercepts the request and asks whether or not to proceed. Let's see what happens when I click the deny button. Now, in that case, an error occurs, and I've got some error handling in the application which displays a suitable error message: the user denied geolocation. In order to actually get any further with the example, in Chrome, there's a button in the address bar where you can change the settings. I can clear the settings, and then if I press F5, it'll forget the fact that I've denied access once. And then if I click the button again, I can get the chance to click the allow button this time to actually proceed. So in that case, we get back the latitude, longitude, and the location accuracy. And then potentially, depending on which device mechanism was used, we might also get back the heading, speed, altitude, altitude accuracy, and the timestamp. So that's the example. Let's see what the code looks like. I have the code open in Komodo Edit, and I'll first of all just skim to the bottom of the HTML to show you what the page looks like. So on line 112, we have a div. This is the div that appears on the right-hand side on the web page, displaying all the geolocation information. So it's this div here that we're talking about. And the div has a series of text boxes. The first three text boxes represent the core information, so I've called them latitude, longitude, and location accuracy. And then I have some additional text boxes here which display the optional information, if you like. So that's the heading, the speed, the altitude, and the altitude accuracy, and the timestamp. Now, on the web page, when I click the Get Current Position button, let me show you the code that gets invoked in that case. It's near the top of the example. It's on line 42. This is the click handler for the Get button. So the first thing you have to do is to determine, does your browser actually support geolocation? And this is how you make that test. Take the navigator object and test the geolocation property. And if you have that property, then you do support geolocation. So in that case, I display a suitable message to the user saying your browser does support geolocation. It's great. And then this is how you can make a one-off request to actually get your current position. You take your geolocation object and you call the getCurrentPosition method. Now, this method is asynchronous. Because getting geolocation information can be quite slow, it might take several seconds for a satellite signal to bounce back and forth. So this is an asynchronous call. You don't get back the information immediately. What you've got to do is to provide at least two callback functions. The first callback function will handle the real data if it succeeded, and the second callback is handling any errors that might have occurred. So let's take a look at the position callback function first of all, and that's down here on line 62. I'll just scroll it into view so you can see what to expect. So your position callback function receives a position object, and the position object has a coords property that contains all the coordinate information about your location. So the coords property has latitude and longitude, accuracy and heading, and so on. So some of these might be null. Obviously, it depends on what your browser is capable of delivering. You also get back a timestamp telling you when the geolocation information was actually retrieved. Now, on line 75, just to be on the safe side, I've got an extra check in here. Maybe the latitude or the longitude came back as null. It could happen. So in that case, I display an error message or warning message to the user to say, your browser does support geolocation, but on this particular occasion, we couldn't get it. So the user might want to try again later on. Assuming that we have got the information, then we display it all on the user interface, as we've seen just now when we ran the example. So that's the position callback function that displays the geolocation information. And then the other thing we need to look at is the error callback. If anything goes wrong, this error callback will be invoked. It receives an error object, and the error object has a code property, and the code property was 1, 2, or 3. The error code will either be permission denied, position unavailable, or timeout. So permission denied is what we got because the user actually declined access. Position unavailable would happen if you're in a dark place where you don't have any access to any geolocation information. Or a timeout. A timeout can occur if the geolocation information wasn't retrieved in the appropriate time. There are options that you can specify to say how long you're prepared to wait for geolocation information to come back. So that concludes the example. I'll just summarize the key points. In order to test whether your browser supports geolocation, you can use this test here. In order to make a one-off request, you can take your geolocation object and call the getCurrentPosition function, and you provide two callback functions to determine how to handle the information or any errors that might occur.